welcome everyone here at Glory Days. Also, everybody watching on our YouTube stream. And Coach, glad to have you make it out. I know you had to rush over. You guys had a late practice this afternoon, so I guess we'll just start with that. How's practice been for these guys? It's been almost a week since your last game, and they're in exams and everything else. So how are things going?
Yeah, it's good. You know, we're down. This was going to be the first day we've had our full roster, all 16 guys at practice. But Mike Gray had a final, so he had to miss practice because of exams. And the guys are studying hard, working hard in their exams, and I'm proud of them. Proud of them, and practices have been going well. We've had, I think, five of our maybe best practices of the year post ODU. So that's Sunday, Monday, played Tuesday, had 2 days off, and then just had our third practice in 4 days.
How tough is it to juggle the practice schedule, their exam schedule? They're trying to focus obviously on basketball because, let's face it, that's what's in their mind, you know, first and foremost. But how tough is it to say, okay, guys, you got to step back a little bit and we got to take care of the grades, because if you don't, you're not playing in spring.
The school part of it, the education part of it is the most important thing. I mean, the order of the word student athlete, the name student athlete, is not accidental. So we absolutely want our guys to focus from their first semester of their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior years.
All right, let's get to the Navy game. Go back and recap that. Obviously, Josh, the big story, Oduro with 32 points, a new career high for him. Going into that, one of the things that we always do on the broadcast is there's always, one guy from each team to watch. And I had said that I thought Josh was the guy to watch because I felt like they didn't have anybody physical enough for him that was his height, and they didn't have anybody his height that was physical enough to stop him. He had a mismatch kind of no matter what they did. Now, I just got lucky in that regard that he ended up having a great game, but was there something that you guys saw prior to the game, or was it just like, hey, Josh is getting going, let's just keep feeding him?
He got going naturally. He actually made some reads in some of our base offense packages, which got him some shots early, and they happened to be from the perimeter, and they went down. And then when you're in that, I call it that flow state, when the rim just gets a little bit bigger. We've made a concerted effort to play through him more and more, no matter the matchup. He's going to be a way for us to get the ball to the paint, especially without Ronnie and X, without our 2 point guards. I was talking to Coach Barnes in the midst of our losing streak, and he said the hardest thing to do in basketball, especially college basketball, is to play without a point guard. And per the net, Navy was our best opponent thus far throughout the season. And for us to find a way to get that win without X, without Ron, I really tip off my hats to the guys, but especially Josh. I mean, to score 30 points in college basketball is impressive. I never did it. I scored 1,600 points in college, and I never scored 30 points, not one time. So for him to do it against a quality opponent, I was sitting with Mike Pegues, the coach at Louisville, the other day, and they beat Navy earlier in the season. And he told his players at Louisville, he said he was the actor. He was like, well, these guys have. Navy has gone into Virginia, gone into Furman, and won. So they commanded our respect, and it was a really good effort, for about 26 minutes of that game. The last 4 minutes, we watched it and learned from it, but really good quality win for our group.
When you go back and compare, because you were really, and deservedly so, and you've said here on this show and in other things that you're going to be honest not only with the fans but with your players as well. And you said after the Old Dominion game that Josh was awful in the first half. I mean, the 5 turnovers. Did you see a concerted effort? Now, it was only a day that you had or two to prepare for Navy, but did you see him the next time in practice like, I've got to be better, I've got to do something different?
To a man, everyone was. In the midst of that, whatever it was, 4 or 5 game losing streak, I was most proud that, and then only in year 1, I was most proud that our culture withstood. Our culture didn't bend, didn't break. The team stayed together. Our habits stayed the same. Our work schedule, guys stayed after. Guys accepted hard coaching. Our practices were the same. They even took it up a level. And, that's hard. That's hard because poison starts to creep in. Your family, your friends, your AAU coaches, your high school, it can start to creep into a group, especially when losing starts. And if it does, that's not a culture. But yeah, no, Josh was he was great. He was great. He took it. You know, we watched all of his missteps, his turnovers at the beginning of the game, which kind of spooked the group. You know, he's a guy that we look to, that the guys on the court look to be solid and consistent. And you know, he wasn't the first half against ODU, and it was our job to try to figure out why and correct those mistakes.
It's interesting you talk about the culture during the losing streak. You and I had a conversation after the Maryland game about, okay, this is now you 4-0, you just went and beat a ranked team on the road. Everybody's going to be talking about how do you keep the distractions out. And you said it doesn't matter if we do what we're supposed to do while we're winning, that it'll all take care of itself. And then again, the same thing, hey, if we just keep doing all the things we're supposed to do as we're losing, it all takes care of itself.
Yeah, it's poison. It's poison. I mean, it's people like I had to listen to my parents as a player. My parents, who loved me more than anyone else in the world, I had to listen to their words in one ear and out the other, because every player on our team, their parents care about one kid.
Right.
Their parents love one of our players the most, and their friends and their coaches. It's the same, and it's thing to do in sport is to hear how great you are and to fight complacency and to just stay locked into the task at hand. That's getting better and ready for the next opponent. You know, we didn't do that, you know, good enough. We could have. We didn't play to our standard at JMU. We could have won the game. We didn't, but we learned from it. You know, I was in film as we broke down the end of the Navy game. Josh Aduro switched on to John Carter late in the game, and he was guarding him with a high hand. Deshaun Shorts was guarding John Carter with a high hand late in the game. That's growth from JMU. You know, when we switched on Vado Morse at the end of that game, you know, Malik Henry had his hands down.
Yep.
And with a 1-point lead, hands down, bangs a three. So, you know, it's teachable moments that you need to learn from throughout a season to continue to grow and improve.
All right, going back to the Navy game, Knight's bounce back for Ticket. He had only scored 2 points combined in the prior two games, Old Dominion and South Dakota State. He ends up with 13 and 9 against Navy. That's kind of, as maybe tough as it is, it's kind of what we've grown to expect from him. Like if he doesn't have 13 and 9, it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, where was Ticket tonight?
Yeah, no, that's who he is, you know, and that he was over 6 from the field in those two games. And, you know, we just had talks. Like I've always known he was a good offensive player. Like he is 13 and 9, whatever he is, but he is an anchor of our defense. He can guard 1 through 4. He is getting deflections. He's getting rebounds, and it starts on the defensive end of the floor with our group, but with him in particular, and that leads to his offensive opportunity. That allows him to get those catch and shoot threes that we all love. It allows him to get out in transition, offensive rebound putbacks. His mindset going into the game, and not just him. You know, before the Navy game, I spoke to him as a team, and in the spring and the summer and the fall, our group they were the best. Selfless, played hard on defense, played the right way on offense, and it was all they cared about, was playing the right way. And again, it's natural. And we start the game, Josh Aduro was a role player, right? Now he's averaging 18. Deshaun Shorts averaged 9 for his career. Now he's averaging 16. Davon Cooper, you know, 10, 12. Now he's up. Devontae Gaines didn't play for 2 seasons. Now he's averaging a double-double, right? That's great. You're 4-0. You beat Maryland. And now all that poison.
Right.
And maybe, I'm not saying for sure, but maybe you go into games with a different mindset, right? Maybe thinking about how many points I'm going to have tonight. Do I get a double-double? The wrong stuff. And, you know, humility is a bedrock of our program, and, you know, a 5-game losing streak humbles you. And we had to get back to who we are. That's defense, sharing the ball on offense, and just playing harder, just being the hardest playing team for 40 minutes.
You talk about playing defense and everything. Looking at the Ken Palm numbers, you guys are top 10 in Division I and limiting offensive rebounds by your opponent. That's got to be part of a culture thing. That's a coaching thing. But, I mean, how do you instill that in a team from day one that, look, this is what we're not going to allow people to get second chance opportunities for them?
Yeah, that's one of the categories we want. We obviously are are good at defensively. We want to be better at making teams miss more shots, so we can get more of those defensive rebounds. It's an emphasis, contesting every shot and limiting them to one is our mission every time on defense. We drill defensive rebounding every day in practice. It's a group correction, if an offensive rebound is had. And Coach Simpkins kind of really hammers into that area specifically, defensive rebounding. And Dennis Felton, he's our defensive coach.
Numbers, not only just the rebounding ones, but the KenPom.com numbers, the other analytical numbers that everybody seems to be these days. It's all analytics. How do you take again, there's as much information as you want out there. How are you able to sift through and decide, okay, this is important, this one maybe not so much, depending on what there's so much information.
The data tells you what's most important.
Okay.
And on KenPom and just in basketball in general, there's four. There's four of them that, honestly, if you win all four of these, you win 100% of the games. It's not football, so it's both sides of the ball are equally as important. Offensively and defensively, it's effective field goal percentage. You want to have a better one than your opponent.
Right.
It's turnover percentage. You want to turn the ball over less than your percentage. It's offensive rebounding percentage and it's defensive rebounding percentage. If you get offensive rebounds, great. If you don't give them up, awesome. And lastly, it's free throw rate. It's how much do you get to the free throw line? How much do you stop your opponent from getting there? If you look at the best teams in the country, those teams are all top 50 in those four categories. Those are the KenPom 4 factors. If you break it down even more, effective field goal and turnover percentage are the two most important.
So now, when you look at a number, because again, I'm going through and before every game, I'm looking at your numbers, I'm looking at the team that we're playing and all those type of things, and they have so much information on there. They talk about 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage. You guys are top 100 in both of those. I would imagine earlier in the season, had there not been some turnover issues that we've talked about in the past, that you probably feel a little bit better about maybe where we are as a team than having those turnover things. Because to be top 100 in both, it's a pretty good offense.
Yeah. You want to get a shot on goal. That's the bottom line. So, no doubt. But again, I kind of don't want our turnover problems from early in the season to spook our guys from playing the pace we need to play. We didn't play the pace we needed to play against Old Dominion, and it cost us. Even though we had a halftime lead, we were playing their game, grind it out. That doesn't suit us the best. We want a lot of possessions because we like our talent, we like our depth.
All right, going back again to Navy. Otis Frazier had a nice game off the bench. The numbers weren't necessarily eye-popping, but you could tell the energy and the things that he did were great off the bench. You were asked about him in the post-game press conference, and for people that didn't see it, you basically said, look, I've been searching for somebody to kind of fill out our rotation. We have our starting five. Obviously played that game without Xavier Johnson, but you said, I've been waiting for somebody to try to separate themselves from everybody else. As we get closer to 8-10, you're going to try to shorten the rotation of what it is. Has that continued in these practices? Have you seen guys starting to separate from everyone else?
Absolutely. Those guys that are on the back end of the rotation, they earn those minutes in games from practice. So if a guy doesn't play, he wasn't practicing well. And for those guys, it's just energy, effort, toughness, and defense. Maybe ball security. I just want those guys giving it their all for as long as they're on the court. And it's Mike, it's TJ, it's Otis, it's Blake Jones, right? It's which one of those guys going to lock down those minutes. And if there's not separation, it's just a crapshoot for me because I don't know. No one really is deserving of them, So it's your chance this game, your chance this game, and we'll see. Now with Mike and TJ and Blake, those guys are growing through those minutes. Those guys are growing through those minutes, but Otis had a good week of practice, and he earned those minutes. And I wasn't surprised. I didn't even know what his stat line was. I just know he played amazing. Right. Coach Felton watched the game. He was like, he did everything right. He got deflections. He was on our white line. That's the middle of the court. When the ball's on one side of the court, we want our guys guarding the guy on the other side of the court to be right underneath the rim on the line. We call it the white line. He got deflections on the white line, deflected balls out of bounds. And he made a shot, and I didn't even care. Right? He was 1 for 2 from the free throw line. I didn't even care. I went to him twice in the game. He made a play, and during the style, I went to him, and I said, you can have all the minutes you want. All the minutes you want. I don't know how many minutes he played, but if he's given that type of effort, I won't be able to keep him off the floor.
How exciting is that as a coach to see when you've said, guys, the minutes are there. Somebody's just got to go take them, and you see a guy step up and do that.
And Mike Gray as well in practice. He was playing low in his stance, being vocal. It's who we're going to be. Eventually, we're going to get 13 guys like that. But as we're building it, just those guys that are playing those low minutes, they have to be those guys for us. Ticket Gaines, Malik Henry, Xavier Johnson, Otis, those guys have to be the energy, tough, physical, do all the gritty stuff. And was really proud of Otis, really happy for him. And to have that type of game after a DNP against ODU, which I know doesn't feel well, but really proud of him.
All right, let's thank our sponsors, and then we're going to talk about Georgia and some upcoming games as well. And you gave some presents, a little early Christmas to some students. I want to ask you about that as well. But we got to thank our sponsor, SN Mortgage Company. George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English is presented by SN Mortgage Company. SN Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender company, NMLS 3116. All right, before I get to Georgia, I saw the video highlights. You had promised that you were going to go and deliver donuts to the students for all their coming out and cheering you guys on, and I saw you out there handing them out. Now, it's interesting because Mason has a very diverse student population, and I've been on this campus associated with it for a very long time, and I've run across students who will tell me, I had no idea we even had a basketball team. I had no idea we had any of this stuff. What was the experience like when you went out and gave donuts? Were people, did they recognize you? Because you haven't been on campus for very long.
Yeah, no, it was great. Actually, yes. They knew who I was. I mean, you could see it. They've been at games.
Right.
The students have been phenomenal. The people who have been coming to games, sitting in the horseshoe, that's not the student section, have been great. Obviously, the Green Machine is, phenomenal and super loyal and there and diehard and early and loud and give such. You wouldn't believe how many people stopped me around D.C. and Virginia and would come to the game, and I'll say, how was it? Like, what did you think of the game? And they say, it was so awesome. Like, that band is amazing. And it's just really cool to hear that, the patrons do get a great experience from the entire atmosphere. But super thankful and appreciative of our students. I didn't know if they wanted pizza, coffee, or donuts. We went with donuts, Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts. And we just shared it, knocked on doors, gave it to them, and just as a thank you and want them to keep coming. And, we're going to practice. Step is our student section standing up throughout the game and stomping on those metal bleachers that they have and making more noise and loud and raucous and crazy in there.
Well, but when you are walking up and you knock on a dorm or you stop somebody in the Johnson Center, wherever it was, I imagine a lot of times guys, girls, whoever had their heads down, kind of look up and like, wait, what are you doing here, Coach? What was that a lot of surprise?
Sometimes they thought it was, a TV show break, and we gave away a lot of donuts. So we went all over campus. We went to Fenwick Library, we went to the Johnson Center, we went to, Horizon. We went to the dorms, President's Park, all the dorms named after a former president, so it was really cool.
Is that a fun thing for you? Because, obviously you have your guys and you're locked in with them all the time, and you don't necessarily get to interact with the students probably as much as you'd like, because obviously during games you're coaching and busy, but was that kind of cool to just kind of get out there in the general student population?
It was really cool to get to see him and talk to him a little bit. We are visible in the community. Our staff goes out to lunch in Fairfax quite a bit. We're in D high school basketball games, but we eat lunch at the Johnson Center some, but to really intermingle with our students was great. I promised them we do it during finals. Now, when I did promise them, I didn't know it would be in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. So, two really tough things I had to do was, one, go recruiting in the midst and walking in the gym, wearing an 0-5 losing streak, but also going out on campus in the midst of it. But I'm a man of my word, and we did it, and it was great.
Well, I hope when you were out recruiting that it was more about, hey, did you see us beat ranked Maryland on the road more than owning the 5-game losing streak?
Yeah, I don't know, but we saw some good players actually, and it was good. It was good.
I know you can't talk specifics about which guys, but where have you been as far as going out to see players? I know they just had a big tournament here in D.C., I think about not yesterday, but last Sunday. So I imagine if you weren't out there, there were some guys out there. But where have been the tournaments that you've been able to take in?
Everywhere. What's really cool about this place is that I think the best players in the country live here. And players from Northern Virginia that were playing in D.C. at Sleepy Thompson tournament at St. Stephen's St. Agnes. Yep. DeMatha had a great Thanksgiving tournament last week. Gonzaga had their event this past week, and just such a wealth of talent. And it's cool. We get to be at this gym, and it's coaches from all over the country. Big 10, ACC, Big 12, Big East. They're flying in. They're playing games and flying in here to watch these kids play that we all know so well. We see practice and play a lot. They're always on campus at our games, at our practices, and we get to be home in our beds that same night. So it's a tremendous advantage, and this is the most important area for us to recruit.
Did you have any conversations? Because I know obviously you've been in coaching long enough that you probably have a lot of guys that you talk to, and you talk about texting with Coach Barnes or talking with Coach Barnes on the regular. Were there any other guys that you saw at these tournaments that came up and said, hey, you're 5, 6, 7 games into your coaching career, how's it going? Any of that kind of conversations?
Those talks happen amongst coaches all the time. Obviously when we see each other on the road, because it's such a small world and it's such a tight fraternity. Now we're competitive as all get out as it comes to getting players and winning games. But yeah, absolutely. We have those conversations all year throughout text. I got some great texts from friends of mine, Rob Lanier at Georgia State, obviously Coach Barnes, Coach Haith and I had a long talk during the midst of our rough stretch. But yeah, as we're sitting watching games, you absolutely talk with coaches and just get advice and talk about games. What'd you do? Get some scouting hints if you have a mutual opponent.
When you get those, what was the advice that most people gave you while you're going through the losing streak? Was it what you have said is, hey, you know what, Kim, you just got to keep doing what you said you were going to do at the beginning because it got you 4 wins at the beginning of the year, so obviously you were doing something right. Was it that kind of positive reinforcement?
Yeah, it was just I don't know, it's weird. It was conversation which I never had. It was kind of head coach speak, like things I've never thought about before now, talking about using timeouts, talking about the rotation, things you can never prepare for until you're actually in that moment and you get a feel for your team. But yeah, it was just about, tripling down and quadrupling down on our standards and our culture. We said to our guys, we weren't losing because we were executing to our standards at the highest level. If we were losing games and we were flying around on defense, and we were forcing teams to take contested 2-point shots, and we were going to hit them and box out, and we were playing offense, and we were taking care of the ball, and we were meeting all of our goals, and our guys were getting wide open shots and missing them, and we were losing, that's a problem. That's an oh crap moment, but that wasn't the case, and our guys knew that. We weren't contesting every shot. We weren't taking care of the ball. We weren't creating the quality of shots that we value. And it was just about getting back to that and moving forward. That's the focus.
All right, you've got Georgia coming up, another Power 5 school on the road opportunity, and people may look at their record and be like, they're not having a great year, but they're coming off an 82-79 win over Memphis. The Memphis team, but they're a very talented team, and Georgia was able to beat them. This is going to be a pretty good game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, really good team. Obviously, a great coach. He's coached in the Final Four. He's had great success. 400 wins the other day against Memphis, I believe 401 against Jacksonville. So, again, was riding a 4-game losing streak. They have 10 new players. They lost one of their best returners, P.J. Horn, to start the season. Amidst that 4-game losing streak, they come and beat an incredibly talented Memphis team, with ridiculous talent and size and length and athleticism. So, obviously, they can play with anyone. Coach Crean speaks highly of that generally like playing with one another. So it's going to be a great challenge for us on the road after a long time off to get to play a quality high major program from the SEC.
How does that game come about? I know obviously Coach Felton, who's our guest tonight, and he's going to be here in a couple minutes, obviously coached at Georgia. But how does that game come about for you guys to go down there? Again, SEC school, when you're looking at it from the outside, you kind of go, well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's not that far of a flight, but it just Georgia and George Mason just don't seem to have any type of connection to make that game happen.
Teams want to play quality opponents to try to beat them. They thought playing a team from the Atlantic 10, we thought playing a team from an SEC made sense. It was a game we scheduled. We want to schedule. We'll continue to schedule those type of opponents. That was good. We called. I don't know who called who, but we both agreed to it. You agree to the date and you go play it. We're kind of actually spent a lot of time this morning, making our schedule for next season. Trying to get less time off for long stretches,
right.
More of a rhythm in between games. Your first season schedule is going to be tough because of some things you inherit, and we're going to kind of still be suffering some of the remnants of that of going to James Madison again next year. But scheduling is the second most important thing you do besides recruiting. It's recruiting, it's scheduling, it's cultivating the culture in your program.
How is that going? I mean, without getting into specifics, have you been able to, when you make the phone call or you check in with another team, are a lot of people accepting of the invitation of, hey, let's do a home and home or whatever it is? Or are you finding people are like, I don't know, you guys are building something there, we may not want to be a part of that?
We're building. I had one ACC coach. We were at a high school gym, and he said to me, "You guys are getting too good too fast." And maybe it was tongue in cheek, but we followed up. It's still early for some programs as the landscape of college basketball shifts to conferences getting bigger, to conferences going to 20 games,
right.
To possible conferences aligning. It could get harder and harder to get quality opponents out of league. But, our league is answering that bell with adding Loyola Chicago, getting us better games in league. We'll have our MTE. So we're going to always have a challenging schedule that gives us a chance to solidify an at-large bid.
Jamie, you just got a nice win. They beat UVA. UVA come to their place, and the Cavaliers head coach Tony Bennett said after the game, somebody said, "Why would you come here? 8,500 students. You're an ACC team. Why would you do it?" And he said, "Because I learned that it's nice to go and get those because they don't get the opportunity." When you hear something like that, I mean, does that make sense to continue to play the teams in your state, like the JMUs, like the Old Dominions? Maybe if you're trying to reach out to a UVA or Virginia Tech. Do you think that's good for the landscape of Virginia college basketball?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to what's best for your program. It's what gives you the best chance to secure an at-large bid. I think it's great for rivalries. If we're going to keep playing them, I want to see a packed arena. If it means that much to the fans and show up and be loud. Right, but our scheduling is one to help us secure an at-large bid. It's to prepare us for league play, and it's to give our fans an exciting slate of games as best we can. That's really cool of Virginia. I think it's awesome. Like I said it that night. JMU is a quality opponent. Those guys play hard. They compete. I love it. I think I'm excited to go to ODU next year. I went to ODU my senior year actually. Missouri played at Old Dominion, so I've been there before. It's a good spot.
Yeah, no, the Ted Constance Center there, they got a pretty nice building down there at Old Dominion. So, all right, we'll take a quick time out. We're going to come back, and I think Coach Felton is here to join us. So Assistant Coach Dennis Felton will join us on the other side. We've got some fan questions to get to as well. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor, SN Mortgage Company. The George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English is presented by SN Mortgage Company. SN Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender. welcome back here at Glory Days Grill in Falls Church. It's the Kim English Coaches Show, and we are pleased to be joined by Associate Head Coach Dennis Felton with Kim and I here. And Coach, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
Thanks
and
for having me.
I know you were saying that you're expecting the ratings to go through the roof now that you're joining us. I'm hoping that means you told a bunch of people that you're going to be on with us tonight.
You know what? I think way too much of myself sometimes.
First off, let me ask, I know obviously for people who may not be familiar, you and Coach English were together at Tulsa, I believe it was,
That's right,
on the same
yeah.
staff. So you had obviously the relationship there. When he got his head coaching job at George Mason, who made the phone call to come join the staff? Because I know you were at Fordham the last couple of years, and we'll talk about that, your familiarity with the A-10, but who made the call to reach out to say, hey, I got the new gig in Fairfax? Was he reaching out to you?
Yep.
Yeah, Coach English reached out to me. He actually, when he felt like it was, sort of imminent that he was going to end up a head coach somewhere this year, he reached out and just gave me a heads up and asked me if I'd be interested in coming with him. And no hesitation, I said, of course. Really excited.
What do you remember about him? Because Tulsa, I think, was your first coaching job, correct?
Yep.
Is that right? So what do you remember about him as a first-time assistant coach? You guys are on staff there together.
An experienced guy at that stage, at the beginning of his career, be so good and have so many strengths that go into being a successful leader and a successful head coach. And it started with his ability to build relationships and genuine relationships to where he could inspire people and get the most out of people and get more out of people than they may have thought of, before he got his hands on them.
Obviously, you were a coach at a couple of different spots, at Georgia, Western Kentucky, Cleveland State. What have you told him as a head coach with that much experience, and he's still now just 10 games into it? What kind of things have you been able to tell him or say, hey, coach, this is coming, or hey, we need to handle it this way? What kind of advice have you given him?
Well, first of all, he does not need as much help as the typical first-time head coach. So I have certainly not hit him with a fire hose of everything that I know because he's continued to be really, really impressive in terms of just how strong a handle he has on how to run a program from A to Z. So it's been more of, and really since the season starts, I think I become more valuable and I find my spots to be helpful more now because there's nothing like going through. First of all, it's really, really, really hard to win a college basketball game, any game. And so seasons are brutal. It's a grind, game after game, trying to figure out how to have your team ready to be its best. And then, especially when you hit adversity and you hit some down moments where you're not, the team isn't feeling as well as they'd like to about themselves. That's when leadership really, really steps in, and that's where my experiences of being through difficult times, as all coaches go through, I hope can be more helpful, and part of it is just to make sure he understands that this is the game. This is what it means to be a head coach. It's not always it's rarely going to go just the way you want it to go. It's more likely to go sideways, on you, and how you manage through those moments. First of all, with yourself and your own emotions, and because there's a million different answers about how to respond to all the things that come along the way. And so as a coach who's like just his everything, he's putting everything he has into it to figure out how to win the moment all the time. You have a million things go through your mind of how can I best respond to this challenge, and how can I best give my team its best chance to be, its best. And but at the end of the day, you have to figure out, okay, this is the path I'm going to choose. This is the one I have the most confidence in, and that's where staff can help you, because you can brainstorm and kind of think through situations and really help each other. And again, I can't tell you, for such a young coach and obviously a first year head coach, he's, I told him once recently, he's far, far, far more advanced than I ever was when I got my first opportunity to be a head coach. And so I just try to chip in and help him, give him some things to think about, and whenever I think it might be valuable.
Yeah, Coach Felton has a great jump in. He has enough about me. Coach Felton has a great voice and an ability to. Honestly, he's not even trying to offer up the advice. It's just what I love is input on what we're doing. Like I don't want yes men around me. Like the staff wasn't built. But I mean, he's been a head coach of multiple championship teams at Western Kentucky. Built like one of the first real mid-major powers at Western, SEC champion at Georgia, Cleveland State. Recruited and coached the core of that team that went on to win the Horizon the next season. So it's all over our staff. I want to know, what do you see in Coach Felton? If it's in his emails, post game, his video, his thoughts going into practice. Or even sometimes when he whispers something in my ear during the game. Against ODU, I was really passionate and fired up about what I thought was happening to the game, and I'm working the officials, and maybe I just had got the tech. He just whispered in my ear, "Okay, calm down, just coach the team." And in the moment I heard his voice, I went from like 100 to 0, and it was done. It was over. I don't think I spoke to the rest of the game. So having his experience, and I asked him a lot of the time, what would you guys do here going into this stretch? We play ODU on a Saturday. We have Sunday, Monday. We play Tuesday. What would you do on Sunday? Again, things you could never know. You can never prepare for. The only thing is experience. So, it was no accident to have Coach Felton around who's been around the best. I mean, best programs as a head coach, great programs as an assistant with the San Antonio Spurs. He's been awesome.
So there hasn't been any "I told you so" moments yet?
No, I would never do that. It's nobody rethinks what we do more than the head coach himself. Right. I mean, any head coach worth his salt is the first thing he does is look in the mirror and try to figure out what could I have done differently or better to help us be better. And so there's no time for "I told you so."
He mentioned the Spurs, and that's on my list of things I want to talk to you about, because you were with them. Obviously, Greg Popovich and that organization has a very good reputation for the culture that they've developed there. When you see what the Spurs and how they develop their culture, and then you look at the kind of things that Coach English wants to do, what are the similarities, if there are any, that kind of go through? One of the first things that when Coach English and I met, he gave me a list of the books. I don't know if you remember this or not, Talent Code, Culture Code, to read. And he said this is a lot of the philosophies and things that I look at. It was fascinating for me to read it and see how business and sports kind of cross over. What are those things that you've seen him kind of implement that all successful programs seem to have?
One of the things that Coach English talks about constantly is one of our pillars, humility. Have great humility. And that's what the Spurs were built on. One of the simplest questions we would constantly ask ourselves about people, because to answer your question, the Spurs, they have this unbelievable culture because of David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Okay, I mean, there happen to be two of the greatest players who happen to be two of the greatest people and two of the greatest teammates and two of the greatest leaders by example. And it's because they're very humble, as good as they are. So, a question we would, always ask ourselves around the Spurs is, or that something that we look for is, we want people that don't take themselves too seriously, and because it's not about you,
Right.
and that's kind of that's the Spurs way of saying, have humility, have great humility. So if a new, I was with the Spurs at the tail end of Timmy's career. So he had already been, I think he's one of the top 5 players ever. And if we would have a new guy with no NBA experience come in on a 10-day contract, first time in an NBA gym, trying to find his way and earn a living, the first thing he would see was that Coach Popovich could coach Tim Duncan just as hard as he coached anybody else on the roster. So that new guy, that rookie on a 10-day contract figures it out right away. Okay, I better be coachable, and I better be with the program, because if he can get on Tim Duncan, the guy I grew up with his poster on my wall, if he can go after Tim Duncan that way, I know I ought to be able to accept coaching. And that culture, it takes time to build, because it takes time to get all the right people on the bus. Everybody's not built, to be a Patriot. And as we build and mold our roster and build this thing up, while we're instilling our culture, that culture is gonna get stronger and stronger. And then that culture is what carries you to championships, but it also is what carries you through adversity. So those times where you're taking hits, whether you lose a player to injury, the key player, or whatever it may be. Seasons are marathons, and they're filled with challenges. When you have that culture of humility and toughness and work ethic and teamwork, then you can overcome that adversity and still continue to succeed.
All right, let me ask a couple of fan questions, and this is both of you can answer these. First one, Bill from Sarasota wants to know, which of the non-conference games prepped you the most for the upcoming A-10 season? And obviously, you being with Fordham the last couple of years, you're pretty familiar with the A-10, probably more so than you are right now, Coach. So, of that, which ones do you think helped you prepare?
Yeah, I don't think you can answer that question with one. Obviously, we've played some teams like Penn that run to Princeton, which is similar to Richmond. We haven't really played a full court pressure team like VCU. We've played teams that are set heavy like St. Bonaventure.
Yep.
The answer is there isn't one. The answer is the one that the schedule in its totality, all 13 games are meant to prepare us for game one of A-10 play against VCU, and then we'll worry about Duquesne game 2, and then Dayton game 3, one game at a time. So it's not one team, but it's the lot of all those teams, which we can, and we do. And speaking today, Coach Felton has Georgia, and we're guarding the Georgia action today in practice, and Nate Thomason says, hey, this is just like what ODU tried to do. So we'll always be able to draw back the things from the non-conference as we're going through our league slate.
Coach, how about was there one or two games that you looked at and said, this is going to help us down the road?
The A-10 is full, it's a big conference like most conferences are, and it's a very diverse conference. So when you look at the A-10 landscape, you have styles, from A to Z, from one end of the spectrum to the other. So that's why Coach English is talking about the fact that all of them will prepare us, because we'll see every style of basketball within our conference during the course of the year.
I think that's kind of neat, too, in the A-10. I mean, sure, you guys probably don't think it's a neat thing, but I like the fact that every single time when you go into a game, you're going to see something different, whether it's 94 feet up and down that VCU wants to run, or whether it's Richmond who's going to back cut you to death. It's always interesting to see those different styles night in and night out.
Yeah, that's college basketball, and in a lot of leagues, they begin to be kind of similar, right?
Yeah.
The Big Ten has its own brand of basketball. The SEC is very athletic, up tempo. The West Coast is high octane offense, a lot of threes, a lot of ridiculous talent. The cool thing about the A-10, I think, is the diversity of styles, and it's going to come down to who can force their will, make the game their tempo, their style of basketball you want to play.
All right, one more. Brian, who is here with us tonight, he wants to know, what's been the best example of overcoming adversity for a single player so far this year, if you can think of one?
Honestly, we have some players on our team that have experienced real adversity. Like real adversity.
Hardship in their lives.
Like the losing of a parent, and or a family member, or a loved one, or injuries. So honestly, it's been nothing. It's been nothing compared to what life really throws at you. When we're talking about winning or losing a basketball game, I talked about winning or losing being a snapshot of time. It's about the actions you've done leading up to it. But I'm really excited to see Ronnie Polite get back from what he's gone through with his injury. I don't think Mason Nation have seen a healthy Ronnie Polite. And I think they're just starting to see a healthy Xavier Johnson. So some of their injuries and adversities happened before we got here. And we're kind of helping them back through it. And hopefully we're going to see their best basketball be in front of them.
Coach, obviously being a head coach for as many seasons as you were, when you have a guy like a Ronnie Polite that's been injured and trying to work his way back, how does what he's going through translate to the other players on the team? How do they look at Ronnie and say, man, that guy's busting his butt to get back. I need to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Is that usually the case in your experience when you have a guy fighting injuries to get back, that it kind of, when he does, it kind of is a lift for the entire team?
Well, before anybody ever gets hurt, we constantly remind our team that, when they do get dinged up, regardless of how severe an injury might be, part of their responsibility to the team is to work just as hard to get back on the court as they would on their game. And so we expect guys who are hurt or injured to give an inspiring effort to get back, because, everyone's responsibility is to do everything he can to be available to play for the team. And Ronald, he's at a long road. He's been a long road, and I know it's obvious how much his teammates respect him, and it's obvious of how much they're looking forward to the impact he can make on the team when he does get back on the court, because in those little instances where he's gotten out there and done some things, his impact is exciting to see.
Going down to Georgia on Saturday, place where you coached for a long time. What's the feeling? I don't know if in your coaching career, if you've been back to Georgia, what's the feeling as we head down there on Saturday?
I'm not a real sentimental guy, so I don't usually get caught up in emotions of things like that. How some coaches say, I don't ever want to coach against my friend, or I don't ever want to coach against a former assistant. I don't get caught up in any of those things, including going to a place where I once coached. It will be a unique experience to be back in that arena for the first time and coaching against them. There's no doubt about that, but I'll pretty much ignore all of that and just be focused on doing everything I can to help us beat Georgia.
And when Coach and I talked a little bit about Georgia in the prior part of the show. You scouted them, it's your scout for this time around. Tell us a little bit about them. We talked about them beating Memphis, and I've said their record I don't think reflects how good of a team they are.
Yeah, and how capable they are. They're athletic. They're aggressive in transition, so our transition defense will have to be at its best. They have several very aggressive guards who are dynamic and get into the paint and make things happen. So guarding the ball and keeping them out of the paint is going to be a key. And then they like to post up, they like to throw the ball in the post a good bit is another way to attack the paint. Really kind of protecting the paint starting in transition is going to be the biggest, theme I could give you to what will be important for, to us to beat them. They've shown a lot of versatility defensively as a team. They've mixed up their ball screen coverages from game to game. They've mixed up their degree of pressure in their man-to-man defense from game to game, and a lot of times even during the midst of a game. So it's hard to predict exactly how they'll want to guard us. My best guess is I think they're going to want to be aggressive and get after us with ball pressure and looking to try to speed us up and looking for steals and to create some offense off their defense. So that's the way we'll plan. And so those are the significant characteristics that stand out about Georgia.
Hey, I'll say this too, just a quick go back about Ronnie and how his teammates view him, as he's coming back from this injury. I'll say this, he sets an incredible example because despite his injury, when he does step on the court, even if it's for a walkthrough, and when he has just been able to get back closer to full throttle, he has not missed a beat as far as being a point guard, his spirit, knowing exactly what we want. I mean, he's not in practice. He hasn't been in practices. He's been in part of 2 practices since we got here, March 24th. 2 practices. And he knows, I mean, you look at the back of I'm just flashing. You look at our playbook on the back of our sheet. every single set and wrinkle and counter and option from every position.
Yeah.
So the impact I hope he's had on the team is everyone should be there. If someone who hasn't been going through the places and plays on the court, it's a testament to his professionalism.
Well, it's nice because, I mean, obviously home games, and even on the road, I'm out there before fans are in the building and everything, and he was out working with Coach Simpkins before the Navy game, and I mean, just dripping sweat, so clearly he's putting in the work.
Yeah, he's close to ready to go.
But that piece the coach is talking about, we were amazed at how well he knew everything the first time he stepped on the court. And then he has this voice that, of leadership, organization. So that's why his teammates have a tremendous amount of respect for him. That's just one more reason, because he was, the first time he stepped on the court, he was so prepared in everything we had done after not being in any practices.
Yeah.
You're a guy who grew up here in the area.
Yeah.
Played high school ball, college ball here as well. I think I finished up at Howard, if I remember correctly. And then, obviously, in the coaching ranks, when this guy's coming along in Baltimore, how aware were you of Kim English as a high school basketball player? And can you give us what your
one of his biggest recruiting mistakes?
Yeah, we all make mistakes in recruiting, and I'll be the first to admit.
I told you so moment.
Oh yeah. Because we recruited Kim a little bit, but we didn't recruit him enough. And so we were never seriously involved with him after just kind of dabbling. And and now I look back and know that, boy, that was a major mistake. I might still be at Georgia.
Now, he's talked about it, and obviously everybody, coaches all around the country, talk about the incredible talent that's here in Maryland, up to Baltimore, Virginia, everything else. When you look at the opportunity that's here and being familiar, you're from Baltimore. You're from here in PG County, if I have it correct. Coach Simpkins being at Maryland, you guys kind of have this whole area almost on lockdown as far as I imagine, even though it's been a while. You probably still have some people that they're still high school coaches that remember you coming up and everything. It's got to be a pretty nice feeling. As he said, you can drive and recruit and see top 100, top 50 talent and be home in bed that night.
It is. This is an incredible area for basketball talent. And I remember when I was coming up, I felt like the D.C. area would always be loaded with talent, and I can't recall exactly what years it was, but it actually went through a period where it wasn't as we know it is now, and I have no answers as to why, but boy, it came back, and now I just feel the same way. It's stronger than it's ever been. And there's just you almost can't explain it. I mean,
it's growing.
Yeah,
it's growing. The Western Maryland, southern parts of Virginia, Delaware. It's growing. More schools, kids coming in. I mean, kids are coming here from all over the world, and foreign kids landing here. It's fascinating. Kids that are from here, but go to national programs, if you will. So it's fascinating.
I would imagine for both of you that the idea is to keep as much local talent here at Mason if you can. I mean, obviously that would make sense, and it also helps with the recruiting budget too, so you don't have to fly everywhere. But it is such an international city that I can imagine that you can do it locally, or you can even do the outreach to. I mean, we have the Australian Blake Jones, and I would imagine there may be even some European kids that would make sense at some point. I mean, it's huge.
It starts here. It starts locally. It starts regionally. But our process of acquiring talent there are no gates on it. It starts here. It is national. I mean, we've been all over the world, coached all over the world, played all over the world. Me, Simp, and Nate all played overseas. Nate is Australian, so local is most important. It's a brand that people know nationally because of what happened in 2006, quite frankly. But it's a brand that people know globally. I mean, a part of our university is in South Korea. You know,
Right.
we can go all over the world and recruit, you know, the best of the best, we feel.
Coach, when you were at Western Kentucky, when you were at Georgia, I imagine coming back up here to the area was a no-brainer as far as recruiting.
I love this place. I love this area. It's better than it's ever been, before. You know, just so much more vibrant and exciting place to live, and for opportunities professionally as well. So it's when we do recruit out of the area, it's an easy sell in terms of the experience to go to school here, but also the professional opportunities beyond, you know, once you graduate. So and we leverage the area in a big way in our recruiting pitch.
All right, last thing for you, Coach. Obviously, last 2 years at Fordham, so you saw a lot of the A-10, and we touched on it a little bit, but just give me your overall impressions of some of the teams and maybe some of the coaches in the A-10, because you have some really good coaches. You think about Mark Schmidt up at St. Bonaventure, what he's been able to do. Of course, down at Davidson, Bob McKillop's been there forever, and how great he's done a job with that program. But all over the place. I mean, Dayton, St. Louis, just you can go up and down that entire list. Just give me an overall feel of what you saw the last couple of years from the A-10.
Well, first of all, historically, I don't know if there's a conference in the country who has more members who have been to the Final Four than the Atlantic 10. You know, I haven't actually done the study, but we've got a lot of programs in the Atlantic 10 who have been to the Final Four. So they've been to the mountaintop. And then you've got great coaching. You've got extraordinary talent. We're located in a part of the country where, you know, most of our programs are seated right in an area, you know, loaded with talent. And it's just what I think of when I think about the Atlantic 10 is in terms of the media image. It's underrated.
Yeah.
It's underrated. It is a great league. All coaches across the country know it. And it's you know, so yeah, there's a lot of variety, you know, a lot of different styles, but so many of them are all successful.
Christmas shopping done?
Christmas shopping, I don't do Christmas shopping.
Okay.
My wife handles that, and I don't expect anything either.
Coach,
No, it's getting there. It's getting there.
It's getting there?
It's getting there,
All right.
slowly but surely.
Well, we got to tell everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because the next time we'll be together is January 3rd for our next coach's show. So, again, Merry Christmas, guys. I'll see you, of course, this weekend. But thanks for coming out. We appreciate it, Coach Felton.
Thanks for everybody for coming out.
Always good to see you, Kid English, as well. That's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Coach English Coaches Show. Again, thanks to our sponsor, SN Mortgage Company. Also, tickets. We have 2 home games prior to Christmas. That'll be next week. So if you want to get tickets, be sure to come on out. Season tickets, mini plans, and individual game tickets are available now. Call the Mason Ticket Office at 703-993-3270 or visit gomason.com for more information. Again, thanks to everyone for watching tonight. Thanks to everybody here at Glory Days, our entire crew out here as well. We appreciate all of their hard work. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll be back on January 3rd.